Hello, and a very warm welcome to the English Story Nook. We are so glad you could join us for another story today. Today, we're diving into a story about a mysterious antique mirror that holds a dark secret. Get ready to discover what happens when a reflection shows more than you expect, and a forgotten past demands to be seen. Before we dive in, if you enjoy our stories and want to support what we do, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and consider buying us a coffee on Ko-fi. There's a link in the description below. Every like, subscription, and small contribution helps us keep creating great content for English learners like you. And now to the story. Her reflection blinked. First, Bonnie Mazzarino had always been drawn to the prosaic beauty of forgotten things. While her peers were chasing the ephemeral glow of new technology, she found solace in the quiet dignity of objects with a past. It was this fascination that led her to a cluttered antique shop on a rainy Tuesday, a place that smelled of dust and decaying paper. Tucked away in a dark corner, behind a mountain of old furniture, was a mirror. Its frame was a cascade of tarnished silver, intricately carved with strange, unfamiliar symbols. It was the kind of object that seemed to hum with a silent, esoteric energy, a story waiting to be told. The shopkeeper, a man with eyes as cloudy as the mirror's surface, gave her a price that was almost laughably low. It was as if he was desperate to be rid of it. Bonnie, however, felt an ineffable pull, a connection she couldn't explain. She bought it without a second thought, a decision that would soon unravel the carefully constructed tapestry of her life. Back in her apartment, the mirror seemed to absorb the light, its surface a murky pool of shadows. As she began to clean it, a strange thing happened. For a fleeting moment, the reflection wasn't her own. It was a woman with wide, terrified eyes, her face pale against the backdrop of a room she didn't recognize. The image was gone in a heartbeat, replaced by her own startled face. Bonnie dismissed it as a trick of the light, a figment of her overactive imagination. But the visions continued, each one more vivid, more detailed than the last. They were like fragments of a forgotten film, playing out in the silvered glass. She saw the woman, her name a whisper in the back of her mind. Tatiana, arguing with a man whose face was always obscured by shadows. A silver locket, clutched in the woman's hand, was a recurring, salient detail. The verisimilitude of the scenes was unnerving. They felt too real to be mere hallucinations. A growing sense of presentiment settled over her, a cold dread that whispered of a dark secret trapped within the mirror's frame. She knew then that she couldn't ignore what she was seeing. Her quixotic quest for the truth had begun. Her research started with the mirror's provenance, a trail that led her to a name, Tatiana Tessitore, a woman who had vanished without a trace over a decade ago. The official report was thin, suggesting she had simply left town, but the undercurrent of suspicion was palpable. An old newspaper article mentioned her boyfriend, Mirko Amendola, who had been questioned but never charged. And then, Bonnie saw it. A detail that made her blood run cold. The article mentioned a missing silver locket, a family heirloom that Tatiana was never without. The connection was undeniable. The mirror wasn't just showing her a story, it was showing her a crime. The visions intensified, the arguments between Tatiana and Mirko becoming clearer, more violent. She saw Tatiana, her face a mask of fear, hiding the locket beneath a loose floorboard. The sense of presentiment she had felt earlier now blossomed into a full-blown premonition of danger. The situation was becoming exigent. She had to act. Driven by a mixture of fear and a stubborn refusal to let the mystery go, Bonnie tracked down Mirko Amendola. He was living a quiet, unassuming life in a small suburban house, a far cry from the shadowy figure in her visions. She approached him under the guise of a freelance journalist, her voice a carefully constructed blend of professional curiosity and feigned innocence. At first, he was charming, his voice a mellifluous baritone that could easily lull one into a false sense of security. But when she mentioned Tatiana's name, a subtle shift occurred. His eyes, once warm and inviting, became cold and hard as stone. He denied everything, of course, his words a smooth, practiced litany of forgetfulness. But his denial was too perfect, his composure too rigid. It was the kind of performance that screamed of a well-rehearsed lie. The encounter left her with a profound sense of ennui, a weariness that settled deep in her bones. The darkness of the past was seeping into her present, and she felt a growing sense of isolation. The once prosaic comfort of her quiet life was gone, replaced by a constant, gnawing anxiety. The visions in the mirror became a relentless, terrifying loop. She saw the final, brutal moments of Tatiana's life, the rage on Mirko's face, the glint of the silver locket falling from her hand. The mirror was no longer a passive observer. It was a vessel of pain, a silent witness to a decade-old murder. The salient fact was that the locket was the key, the one piece of evidence that could bring the truth to light. The situation had become exigent, a ticking clock counting down to a confrontation she both craved and dreaded. She had a final, startlingly clear vision. She saw the room from the visions, the loose floorboard, the hidden locket, and then a shocking realization. The room was in the antique shop. The shop, she discovered through old city records, had once been Tatiana's apartment. The mirror hadn't just been a random object in the shop, it had been a part of the room, a silent observer of the tragedy that had unfolded there. The esoteric symbols on its frame now seemed like a warning, a language she was only just beginning to understand. That night, under the cloak of darkness, Bonnie broke into the antique shop. Her heart pounded in her chest, a frantic drum against the silence of the sleeping city. She found the room from her visions, the air thick with the ghost of a memory. Prying open the loose floorboard, her fingers brushed against the cool metal of the locket. It was real. It was all real. A voice from the shadows made her jump. "I knew you'd find it!" Mirko stepped into the moonlight, his face a twisted mask of paranoia and rage. He confessed everything, his words a torrent of invective, a vile stream of self-pity and blame. He had been tormented by the mirror for years, he said, its ubiquitous presence in his life a constant reminder of his crime. He had sold it, hoping to be free, but it had found its way to her, to someone who would listen to its silent screams. He lunged at her, his hands outstretched, his eyes wild with a desperate, murderous intent. He would not be exposed. He would not be judged. The verisimilitude of his confession was chilling, the raw, unadulterated evil in his voice, a thing of nightmares. Just as he was about to grab her, the mirror flared with an ineffable, blinding light. The spectral image of Tatiana appeared, no longer a fleeting reflection, but a solid, ethereal form. She pointed a trembling finger at Mirko, her eyes burning with a cold, righteous fire. The sight was so shocking, so utterly impossible, that he stumbled back, his face a mask of terror. The distraction was all Bonnie needed. She fled, the locket clutched in her hand, her mind a whirlwind of fear and disbelief. The police, alerted by a silent alarm she had triggered, arrived to find Mirko a gibbering, broken man, his confession a rambling, incoherent mess. The locket contained a small folded note from Tatiana, a desperate plea for help, a final, damning piece of evidence. The once mellifluous voice of Mirko was now a harsh, grating whisper, his charm stripped away to reveal the monster beneath. In the aftermath, the world seemed both sharper and more fragile. The mirror its purpose served was now just a mirror, its surface reflecting only her own face. But her reflection was different. Her eyes held a new depth, a quiet wisdom that had been bought at a terrible price. The ennui of the investigation had given way to a quiet strength, a resilience she never knew she possessed. The quixotic quest had ended not in fantasy, but in a harsh, undeniable reality. The ubiquitous reminders of the case in the news were a constant, unsettling presence, but she found a strange comfort in the fact that the truth had finally been brought to light. The invective of that night would forever echo in her memory, a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath a charming facade. The price of forbidden knowledge was high, but in the end, she had given a voice to the voiceless, and in doing so had found her own. Her reflection no longer blinked first. It met her gaze with a steady, unwavering strength, a silent acknowledgement of the thin veil she had crossed and the woman she had become. That's the end of our story for today. It was quite a thrilling mystery to solve, wasn't it? We would love to know what you thought about it, so please share your ideas in the comments section. And remember to check the description box below for helpful resources to continue your learning. Thank you for joining us at the English Story Nook. Keep practicing your English, stay curious, and we cannot wait to see you in our next video. Happy learning, and goodbye for now.